You done? There you go. This episode is brought to you by Booze Hag. When you're sick and sound like you're drinking, Booze Hag. You can enjoy Booze Hag all by yourself at the end of the bar.
When I laugh, it sounds like my brakes grinding. Which is just as embarrassing to say.
That's funny. All right, so it's like that, right? Okay. All right, here we go. You're listening to CreepGeeks Podcast. And it begins. So this is the CreepGeeks Podcast. This is Season 6, Episode 228.
New Orleans and Stuckey's Bridge.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, here we go. Okay. So I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
And this is CreepGeeks Podcast. And if this is your very first time tuning in, we're glad to have you here.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's been a minute since we've done a podcast because, things happen and Omi's sick.
That's true.
Yeah. So she's got a little bit of a walking pneumonia type thing going on, a little cough, little whatever, man.
Gravel in the throat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brakes grinding. So our last podcast, which was episode number 227, we talked about our spooky trip that we took across the country.
Yeah.
With every intention of seeing all the spooky things that are out there. Anyway, it is what it is, man. That's all I can say. Things happen, things change.
Yeah.
And so we were pretty fluid in our desire to travel across the country and see things because it already kind of started out in a direction that we didn't want to go.
And rather than focus on that, because honestly, y'all, we did start to record an episode where we just harped on all the bad and all the weird, like how things just weren't lining up. We're trying to focus on what we were able to investigate and how cool certain things were.
Yeah.
We did get some very interesting opportunities to explore some very weird and very unusual things.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's not this episode. So, just so you know. Okay, so anyway, we're going to kind of continue where we left off. And if you didn't listen to us last time, you should, because it's free and we're available everywhere a podcast can be listened to at absolutely no charge to you.
Ooh.
That's right. But we do want to thank our patrons, though. Our patron sponsors are very, very nice, and we do appreciate and we love each one of you. Just leave it like that. Right? All right, so what happened was we were taking our trip, and we decided we wanted to go mine diamonds, but that didn't work out because it got wet. And when it's a wet situation like that, it's just no good for anybody.
Actually, a huge front was rolling across the U.S.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And shocker, a huge front rolled back across the U.S. when we went back to the other side. So anyway, it became a thing. So we decided that, well, let's go get a French donut.
Sure.
We're there anyway. And so that's what we did. But along the way, we actually went to a place that we had on a map because we took a map and we put over 100 different places of things we'd like to see and maybe go experience from Google Maps.
Yeah.
Over 100 points of interest, if you will. And we're going to put a link in our show notes so that you can look at the map if you want. And, I don't know if you can edit it or not, but
there's a way to open it up. But the last time I took part in a project like that, the dude lost control of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing. The podcast is called the CreepGeeks Podcast, right? We're an offbeat podcast. We explore paranormal, cryptid, supernatural, and just basically stuff. But we also do a little bit of tech stuff, too.
Yeah.
And we wanted to make a map, an interactive map, using Google Maps, because everybody probably has it on their phones, right? To where you could just, kind of open up the map and see some of the weird stuff that may be close to your area or, whatever, and just go check it out. Now, it used to be a long time ago that Google Maps was like a real navigation type software.
Plotting software almost.
Not anymore. So things are different. So anyway, we're going to have a link to that, and you can click on it and can peruse that at your leisure. But back to the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, so we decided to stop by a place called Stuckey's Bridge.
Yes, on our way to New Orleans.
To get a French donut.
Yes.
And the reason why I keep calling it French donut is because I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's beignet.
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 Yeah. Hello, Pepper. That's our paranormal Pepper. So along the way, we decided to go, and we stopped at Stuckey's Bridge, and that is one of the places on the map. And according to Wikipedia, well, it's really not that interesting, honestly.
Well, see, here's the thing. Wikipedia lets you know that this is a bridge spanning the Chunky River just outside Meridian, Mississippi. The bridge was listed as a Mississippi landmark on August 4th, 1984. It is a National Register of Historic Places location, which, when you see that, you believe it must be open to the public.
Yes.
Now, if you are into local folklore and stuff like that, you know about Stuckey's Bridge as being a legendary place where bad things happen and how this guy apparently murdered people on it. Now, there's a full story, which is the legend of Stuckey's Bridge.
Yeah.
And that is, according to legend, a member of the Dalton gang named Stuckey owned a nearby inn where he would rob and murder his guests and bury his victims' bodies on the riverbank. The legend says that after murdering 20 people, Stuckey was finally caught and hanged from the newly constructed bridge located on the site of his murders. Rumors of Stuckey haunting the bridge arose, as well as claimed sightings of an old man carrying a lantern along the river's edge, loud splashes that supposedly represented Stuckey's body hitting the water after his noose was cut, and visions of his lifeless corpse hanging from the bridge.
So yeah, I'm in.
And,
right, I want to go check it out. I'm in.
And it's funny because Wikipedia lists this. You were telling me stories of like they hung his head for a while and stuff, and
yeah.
I've heard that too.
Right.
So this place has been on various TV shows, so we know it's a haunted location.
Yes.
And you can see it on Instagram. It looks like a spooky place. So
it's been on like shows like Most Terrifying Places in America, which showed the same 3 or 4 terrifying places in America in the same episode, like over again. Anyway, and also on haunted road trips.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and on haunted road trips they refer to it as Old Man Stuckey's Bridge. Yeah. Now the cool thing about Wikipedia is that it does give the actual GPS coordinates. So if you do have a real GPS and you wanted to stick it in there, you could do that and you can go. So we decided to make our way there because it was kind of on the way down to New Orleans where we needed to go get a French donut and also some voodoo supplies.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd kind of head down there and check it out. And what I did while we were there and what you did is record some video and things like that so that we could, do this really cool sort of, hey, we're going to check out Stuckey's Bridge. But I'll tell you right now, it didn't go well for us. We were there for about 2 minutes before it became apparent it was time to go.
Yeah. Pepper didn't even have time to sniff around.
Yeah. We were watched as we went in, and as soon as we pulled into Stuckey's Bridge, evidently the people that owned the bridge didn't want us there, and they just sat there and eyeballed us the whole time. But
here's the thing. Was it people who actually own the bridge? Because what we noticed was there was no trespassing and private property signs around the area, as well as for sale signs.
Well,
but not at the actual bridge.
Who knows? I don't know. We passed the church and they eyeballed us. So it became a thing. So anyway, what we did was we recorded some audios and we thought we'd play it for you so that you can listen to it. Plus, this gives us a great spot here for Omi not to cough in the microphone.
Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully this is the correct audio clip.
Old man Stuckey killed travelers. He was hung from the bridge for 5 days. Bodies were found when the bridge was rebuilt. Reports of footstep sounds and weird lights over the bridge. The bridge was closed in 2011 due to structural issues. Locals, however, believe paranormal and not structural.
Take the next right onto Robert Moore Road. Turn right.
Stuckey Bridge Road. What do eyeball is?
And it looks like we're here.
Chunky River, Old Man Stuckey's Bridge. I don't know what time. What day is it? Let's look. We're in the spooky
October
season.
12th.
11/18, Tuesday, October 12th. Footsteps on the bridge, weird lights. Old Man Stuckey used to kill travelers. I believe they hung him from the bridge when they caught him. It's a pretty gruesome story, actually. So. Somebody's coming? Yeah. Alright, we'll get out of the way. You can hear strange ATV sounds along the bridge. Yeah, this place is off limits, so. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah, this is a minor pit stop. So. Cruising through residential type neighborhood. Land. Supposed to be off limits. Not a big deal. So basically we were here long enough to say we went. We took a look. It's graffiti, the little archway is kind of cool. The bridge looks old and structurally unsound, you know, for its intended purpose, but it's alright, I guess. I don't know. Would I want to come hang out here and do some kind of paranormal investigation? Sure. But I don't know. This is not one of those places where you're like, hey, let's pack up and drive 2 hours to go see it. This is one of these little local blips. Like a blip on the local radar. But it does have a pretty gruesome story. So, anyway. There you go. Okay, that's me digging in a bag of hamburgers.
Continue on Stuckey Bridge Road for 1.5 miles.
So, yeah, it was kind of weird. I thought the people on the ATVs were going to come flying across the bridge, and you stepped up on the bridge, and I was,
I was trying to take a cool Instagram type pic, but the thing was, when I was kneeling down and taking pictures, I got one picture of the bridge that kind of came out blurry, and I'm like, oh, I got to recompose this. And as I'm like focusing, I realized there is a dude on an ATV staring across the bridge at me.
Yeah, that's why I was like, all right, get out of the way, let's go.
And
right, pretty much.
Yeah. And it's funny because if you go to Wikipedia, because you want to learn more about this, the photo is from like 2008. So the bridge that we took a picture of, it's in disrepair.
Yeah, it doesn't look the same.
Yeah.
So anyway, we went and it was along the way. It was a place that I thought looked interesting because I did watch I seen this on TV and I'm like, ooh, yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I wish it would have been as cool as the Pope like monster, type situation with that bridge, but it wasn't. But hey, if you're in the area and you want to go check it out, you should. Just be aware that chances are somebody is not going to want you there.
Yeah.
And, we just started our trip. So I'm like, it wasn't worth, the hassle.
Yeah.
Honestly. I'm like, all right, let's just go. Because, everywhere we wanted to go was like, not just like, oh, that's just 10 miles down the road. It's like, okay, that's 4.5 hours at 75 miles an hour. That kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, there you go. The Stuckey's Bridge was kind of cool. We did make a video. We do have a video on our YouTube channel. I think TikTok too. We have all those social media presences, like, for example, our Facebook page and things like that. So if you want to check it out, if you go to Facebook, you can look up Creep Geeks. You'll find us, and you can watch it there.
Instagram, Reels, maybe. Or we're going to put it there. I don't know.
Yeah, I've been editing videos to put up little clips and stuff, and,
I don't know. I was really excited for this one.
Well, I was too, until we got to it, and I'm like, all right. And then, see, as soon as we got there, I could hear the ATVs. But the only weird thing was that it was not windy at all that entire time, right?
Yeah.
We get there, and it's windy. Like, wind was just blowing. And I'm like, what? And then when we got in the van to leave, the wind stopped.
And
so I thought that was kind of strange. And I did hear some weird noises that may or may not be my stomach. I don't know, because of the cheeseburgers. But
well, it wasn't until minutes into that audio that I finally heard the bugs. We're in Mississippi, y'all. You should hear the bugs, And they talk all the time. Yeah, it was very still there. And then what was weird was the only thing we did hear were the ATVs.
Yeah.
So that was the only weird thing. Kind of.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, what the funny thing was is that, we're going to the bridge. The paved road stops. It just becomes this real thick gravel, rough gravel road. And on the right-hand side is a church. And at that church was, in the parking lot was, 2 pickup trucks, a guy with the trailer, looked like he had like a, 0-turn lawnmower on it, stuff like that to do the grass, right?
Yeah.
And they're looking at us like we're crazy because I didn't slow down at all. Because they're like, oh, it's gravel, you're in a big van, you should go slow. It's like, I hit that thing at 35 miles an hour, kept on going, and the look on their faces was like, I don't know. It kind of struck me as sort of funny because in the video I was like, oh, there they go, they're eyeballing us. Because yes, we do have a van and it does have off-road tires on it, and it is kind of, we've done our time on dirt roads.
Yes.
So, I'm not slowing down to 20. I'm rolling out, but the look on their faces when we were blowing by them, like we were going the speed limit, but normally people go and they really slow down.
Yeah.
We did not. We just see you blowing right on through there. And then we got there 1.5 miles down the road and there was the ATVs already on the other side of the bridge.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
that's just weird.
And one side was fenced off and locked. So all we're saying is that if you go and it's probably good to know somebody if you're going to go. They say there's no public access and it's closed off to the public. So,
but we couldn't find anything like that.
Well, I seen the signs that said posted no trespassing. Whatever. Yeah. Anyway, just be aware that if you go, some people may not want you there. That's my little disclaimer to you: is that you hit the gravel road, just keep on going. It'll be down there. You'll find it. It's not far, but just keep in mind you may not be wanted there. Mm-hmm. So that's my disclaimer. But we didn't hang around, but also we didn't run away all scared either. So I don't know. I even backed in. I'll show you. I'll pull up here and back in. I'll block this way out so you can't get out. But it's all good. So, okay. So after that, we decided it was time for a donut. Okay. And we drove to New Orleans. But it was a lot farther. So we went up staying the night. And then, see, certain things bug me as an adult.
Yeah.
Paying a lot of money for a hotel room bugs me.
Yeah.
For a very small hotel room. We didn't stay in New Orleans, and but we
stayed outside New Orleans.
Yeah, it was we did. Here's what it didn't bug me until later on in the trip, where we did exactly the same thing in New Mexico at a campground, right? A little RV park type thing, because there's no hotels around or anything like that. For $12, we paid $200 to basically take a shower and take a nap.
Yeah,
but it was okay. So we went to New Orleans.
But that's a good piece of travel advice. I know this is a paranormal podcast, but yes, we did New Orleans on an impulse because our other planned locations were falling through. New Orleans is not a spontaneous decision, y'all. So if we give you any travel advice on this paranormal podcast, plan your hotel room.
Yeah, if you need one.
Yeah.
And, so, but out of the places to go in that area, had we been smarter at the time, we wouldn't have left Mississippi to go to New Orleans. We would have went to Texarkana first and then went to New Orleans.
Yeah, that's true.
But we did that afterwards because Monster Mart is kind of close, but not really.
Not really.
But in the grand scheme of things. So anyway, we got into New Orleans and we got there and guess what? It was really hot. And we thought we were clever by justifying going in October that nobody'd be there.
Were we wrong?
So, I mean, it really wasn't as busy as it could have been or should have been, but it was still busy enough.
And every local and every tourist guide and things like that were like, oh no, October is when our business starts to ramp up.
That's because older people go.
Yes. So apparently October through Mardi Gras is the busy season for New Orleans.
Yeah.
So, oops. Now, a lot of things about New Orleans has changed since 2020. Found out you can't go into some of the graveyards. Some of the more major voodoo shops are either closed or in the middle of relocating to different sections of New Orleans. And not as dog-friendly as it used to be. So, due to certain things in the past 18 months, many of the bars and cafes are not as dog-friendly, as well as many of the haunted locations.
Yep. So, once we figured out that, our plans were probably not going to work as well, we decided to take a carriage ride.
Yes.
It was pretty cool. Riding around in a carriage with a horse. And they were very nice. They were like, hey, we're like, hey, would you like to take a carriage ride? And we were like, no. And then they were like, well, you could bring your dog. And we were like, well, okay, it's an hour long and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, sweet, how much is this? And they were like, it's $100. And I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
So anyway, we did it anyway. And, we talked to them. The nice lady, it was like us and this other couple from the Midwest, Iowa or something like that, because they enjoyed seeing something about corn, which was true. They were like, oh, corn. And I was like, what? But the lady found out that we do a paranormal podcast, and she was like, well, I don't want to make this a ghost tour. I'm like, okay. We didn't ask for a ghost tour, but that's cool. Because, honestly, I figured they would probably be the best way to get around is to see everything in a short amount of time was to take a carriage ride, take an hour long and have somebody tell you all about what they think is the most interesting part of New Orleans.
And it's...
New Orleans, everyone,
And just the history in itself is spooky in nature and kind of unsettling. So
yeah, and that's how you know you're old. When you're like, ooh, let's hear about the history. You know what I mean? It's like... But honestly, though, that's, you could easily go and listen to ghost stories and take a little haunted tour and listen to the embellishments put on by the people that do it because they want to keep it interesting. But we kind of like some of the real history behind it, or as real as we can get, because that sets the context to it. So that way you can kind of get a better idea of what's real or what's, shiny and what's not.
Like why the architecture and ironwork is so violent and looking and sharp.
Yeah, why does it look so crazy gothic, and because, I don't know, in the pictures that get painted, because people read books, like Anne Rice, she's probably the most famous author to come out of New Orleans.
Yeah.
I mean, well, she's had, okay. In our line of what we're talking about with paranormal stuff, I would say she is,
Yeah.
So anyway, we took a carriage ride, and she couldn't help it. Very nice lady who, was doing the tour and doing the carriage. I can't remember the horse's name. Flower.
It's in one of our audio clips.
Yeah, well, the horse is very cool, but she started slipping in some ghost stuff, like to tell us where some of the haunted places are.
Ghost stuff, as well as just spooky, supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool because that's kind of what I wanted. I don't know. It wound up being one of those things where it was a nice blend of history to get an idea of why the flavor of the city is the flavor of the city, and some spooky paranormal stuff to sort of cater into it. But the Midwestern couple, they were all about it. They're like, "Oh yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, we want to hear it." Because she even asked, she was like, "Do you mind if we?" They were like, "Yeah, this is awesome." So what we did is we recorded some audio clips and we did make some video. But I thought we'd kind of put some of these audio clips into the podcast just so you can get an idea of what it's like to take a carriage ride through New Orleans, where they have a little sprinkling of history mixed in with a smattering of spooky.
Yeah.
So we're going to play that for you now so that Omi can cough real loud off the microphone because she's hasn't been feeling well. She's got the itis. Yeah. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
That guy's Bienville. Bienville's the man who starts our French colony by the date of 1718. Our colony begins right up by the river. Why? You're seeing why right now. That's the highest spot in the city. It's a natural levee. Our Mississippi River runs for a total of 2,300 miles. It gets its start in Itasca, Minnesota. Our city being referred to as a Sioux Falls. That's the top of the Sioux Falls right over there. The river right here behind us is also as deep as it gets. It's 200 feet deep. They were feeling so bad for the striking workers that weren't making any money. They were giving them free sandwiches. They're handing out those free sandwiches and they're saying, "Oh, you poor boys."
Oh my goodness.
That's how our sandwich got its name. In 1821, our mayor, his name was Gerard, he wrote a letter to Napoleon and he says, "Dear Napoleon, I have this big old beautiful house. You can come live out the rest of your years. I'll even help pay for the boat to get you here." Also on my right, one of our haunted building spokes is our pharmacy museum. It's the site of the first licensed pharmacist in the United States. Inside they show old medicines and cures, which include voodoo cures. Voodoo, yes. Look at that second window as we pass by. You'll see their glass jars in that window. Those glass apothecary jars are the pharmacist's warning of a plague or a virus. That's a genius, but the swamp thing? I don't know about that. So the red brick buildings I was describing to you. And I know you're all wondering, where does our Baroness get enough money for those luxury apartments during that time period? Some people I know on their bucket list it says dance on somebody's grave. How about dance on somebody's grave in a really old church? Kind of cool. Pretty cool. They say there are about 100 people buried inside that church, also haunted. Mostly clergy. That's who we bury inside a church. But I guess if you're rich enough, come on, good girl. If you're rich enough to, build a church, you can be buried inside of it. Two rich families, a French family, the Marigny family, which you're going to go see actually that area, and Almanasters as well. Coming up on my left, you'll see the address 632 and a half. Right upstairs, that was Tennessee Williams' apartment. Our first Spanish theater. And then Pat O'Brien did a couple of renovations and made it a pretty cool bar. Another recommendation is on my left, the very famous Preservation Hall. They do nightly jazz shows. So the beauty of the jazz show is not for you guys, but it's an all-age show. So it's kind of cool. There's not much you can do if you're not 21 after 8 o'clock at night here. But you can go see an authentic New Orleans jazz show. So tickets are $25, I think. To sit in the back if you want to, if you're rich like your husband here, $40 for an upfront seat. This is like a love-hate city. Some people are like,
well, it's Sin City, but,
it is Sin City.
Nice.
Hey, we name our city after a guy, Louis the 14th who's Louisiana is named after. It's kind of funny. He was certainly not a saint. He was a sinner.
Well, none of us are.
He married his first cousin. Y'all look to your left, to your right-hand side. Oh, look at that. That truck is left. Well, you can see it. That's the guy with his hand stretched out in the air, that's Jesus back there. But we do have a nickname for him. We call him Touchdown Jesus.
Awesome.
He's a saint man. The church was actually named after a saint, Louis IX, and he was the only king ever to be made a saint. Yeah, Louis IX. And you know that Louis XIV wasn't made a saint. Marrying his first cousin, having more children with his mistresses than his wife. Oh my God, he was a big mess, right?
Really?
So we're talking about Lafitte's, like I said, oldest building, the House of Bar in the United States, named after Jean Lafitte, the pirate. He actually was one of the men that helped fight and win our battle in New Orleans. That was pretty important. Who would want all that British food? Ugh, can you imagine what our food would taste like if they had won? So crazy enough, Andrew Jackson had a meeting with Lafitte, and he says, listen, I need help with my battle. And Lafitte says, sure, no problem. Of course I'll help you. But I want something in return. You know, a pirate, a bad guy, isn't going to do anything for nothing.
Yeah, right.
So what he requests from Andrew Jackson is absolutely insane. He says, I want to be pardoned. And you think Andrew Jackson would say, that's out of the question. Ridiculous. You're a criminal.
Yeah.
But he so wants his help in that battle that he says yes. And he lives up to it. Not only does he pardon Lafitte, he pardons his brother as well. So they were both never prosecuted for any crimes that they had committed. They're put into whiskey barrels and sent home on ships. Yeah, pickled. You wonder if like people were drinking them. I know, it's a gruesome world. I told you Louis IX, our church was named after. He didn't die in his homeland. He died in Tunisia. So of course, a king, they need his body to come back to where he was from. He died earlier. Then that battle in New Orleans. Come on, good girl. Look at this. A clear way. Go ahead, good girl. Come on. I took an hour tour yesterday, and I can't begin to tell you how many times I had to turn because of all the streets closed off. So, Louis IX had an even more gruesome fate. He dies, and they have to get his body back from Tunisia, so they boil him. Yeah. Take the meat off the bones and set the bones. They send the bones home. They say that his brother brought some of his vital organs back as well. Yeah, I know. Truly gruesome. You'll see it says Ice House Bar. Well, we're kind of close to it, but you can see it's that little plaque hanging there. So what they mean by Ice House Bar is that this was an ice house. So being very close to the Mississippi River, you can bring blocks of ice here. So you can come to this spot and pick up your ice blocks. So we have ice, we can put men on ice, right? So the battle in New Orleans happens, any of our injured men would come back to this spot. A couple of people were sitting here and they say it's Building 5 that's haunted. I don't know about that. But they say the haunting is that actually when you walk back to your room, you'll have sort of a vision of men on cots. Yes, men on army cots. So, of course, at that point, you'll go down to the front desk and you'll tell them what you saw, and they'll ask you how many hurricanes you've had.
Yeah.
This is the Ursuline Convent. The Ursuline nuns, they were the first ladies to come here. Believe it or not, they're pretty darn brave. They came here in 1727. Amazing. No other chicks were here. This building on my left-hand side is called the Beauregard Kai's house. Haunted as well. I told you I wasn't going to give you a haunted tour, so trying to live up to that. 2 equal staircases, one on both sides. That's my favorite part. They were designated at one time, which many buildings were here in the French Quarter, entrances, men's and women's. Reason being, so when you walk up a set of steps, what happens to your skirt? It rises, right? Yeah. So they say if a man saw a woman's ankle, she was said to be impure. Ooh. There we go. There we go. So if you can get inside the Ursuline Convent, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's a museum. This church is amazing. It's just as beautiful as St. Louis Cathedral. That doesn't belong to the tree. It's called Resurrection Fern. So when it doesn't rain, which it hasn't for a little while here, you'll see it looks pretty brown and dead. It's not. It's just hiding. It's dormant right now. We call it Resurrection Fern because if it hits about 10 drops of water on that Resurrection Fern, bright green it will turn. It's kind of cool. You don't need see here, Maya, I'm not a good ghost storyteller, but she was a notorious slave torturer. This is not a ghost story. This is the truth.
Yeah.
They say they actually found a room with torture equipment in her house. Yeah. And the way that they found this is the folks in the French Quarter. So usually, if you had slaves, there were just a few. They lived with you your whole life. So what happened in this house is they see people coming and going, different faces. And the people in the French Quarter actually say, they call the police and say, what's going on? You know, this is not a usual situation. You want to go up and see what's going on in that house? And the police come up to her house and they find that she has this torture room. And it goes on and on. They say that she was doing science experiments on slaves. I'm not so sure that's true. But her husband was a doctor, and she was a crazy lady. That's what I truly believe. I truly believe she was absolutely crazy. So they take away the slaves, unfortunately, being a socialite in the city. Her friends give her slaves back. They say there was some sort of large fire in the house, and the police and the firemen come again. And at that point, she runs away because she knows she's going to get in big trouble. There was a slave code at that time. It's called the Code du Noir. It's a whole book of how to treat slaves. So she was in violation of that book. This is Jacques Saint-Germain's house, and they say that bricked up window up there on that second floor, a woman jumped out of that window, and that's why the one window was bricked up.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this part of the audio clip, which I know doesn't translate very well for your eyeballs, we went to Marie Laveau's House of Voodoo.
Yeah.
So, but the reason why I put some of those clips in there, and we'll talk about the Voodoo Queen here in a minute. That was the sound of freedom right there. One of the reasons why we put these clips in, well, okay, so here's the reason why we did these clips. When you go to New Orleans, there's a couple different things that, well, there's a bunch of different things, but some of the things that are pretty interesting is, you know, the local lore, right? Like the po' boy sandwich.
Yeah.
Because what I realized, and I was just telling you this when we were playing the audio clip, this spooky season trip for us was all about food.
That's true.
I mean, it was just like nonstop, like finding food. If anything, and if you take one of these trips, or decide to do a spooky trip or whatever, you got to go and you got to sample the cuisine, man, whether it's a greasy diner spoon place or greasy spoon diner or, you know, pepperoni balls and Mothman pizza in West Virginia. You kind of got to like. Yeah,
but I'm so upset because like we were dieting for like 2.5 months and I threw all of it away.
Man, I blew it all away. I don't care. You know what? I thought about that. I felt guilty for about half a second.
I still feel guilty.
I'm not.
So, yeah. But it was like nonstop food.
Found out about the po' boy sandwich and its origination, you know, from people that were on strike. And we also found out about some of the architecture that came with French and basically some of the Spanish influence. And we had death.
Lots of death.
Yeah, in the clips we had like, you know, pickled.
And then like stuff
like people being like bodies being pickled.
Yeah, and then stuff you don't even think about until you're like there where it's hot and humid and you're like, wow, these people had to settle and pioneer here in a swampy, mosquito-filled, violence-filled region that is almost nearly lawless.
Yeah, with pirates, and Lafitte was in there. And when she was talking about the lady that owned the slaves and basically treated them poorly, that wound up working its way into American Horror Story.
Yeah.
And the slave lady, because I cannot think of her name off the top of my head, was played by
Kathy Bates.
Kathy Bates.
Yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, and the Ursuline nuns.
Yeah.
They were in that too.
Were they?
Yeah. Because of the witches and stuff when they came over. Because at one time they thought that the nuns were witches.
I thought that was
because they carried, they brought over their stuff in his chest and nobody could open the chest.
I thought that was the cassette girls, a.k.a. the casket girls.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay. I thought the casket girls were separate from the Ursuline.
No, they were there as well.
And
in that same area. I think I maybe got the clips messed up. But we wanted to include clips. And that was a thing, too. If you were wealthy, you could be buried in the church, right? Yeah. And not above ground, because it is a swamp.
Which just adds to, like, a supernatural closing. Even if you had wealth sometime in your life and you got a church built, you could die in ruin or social ruin and somehow still end up buried in a church, which makes people go, wow, did he have superpowers? Is he legendary? So,
yeah, it was kind of weird. And it was loud. It was like music playing all the time. So, and we did go get our French donut. And while we were there trying to eat the French donut, Pepper was trying to eat pigeons.
Yes, the whole time.
Because there was like these 6 pigeons that, they were hip to the game, man. They've been there. They know what was up. They were just waiting for you to drop something. So they were circling around and stuff, and Pepper did not like that. She was like, you want some of this?
But she did a good job, because behind you, there was some older gentlemen, like, having a meeting, and they had beignets.
Yeah.
And one of the pigeons was, like, bold enough to land on the table.
Well, that was the diversionary pigeon, see? One goes in.
Yeah.
And distracts them. And then usually another one will come up behind them and they'll snatch the beignet, and then they go share it.
But then Pepper was guarding our table.
Yeah.
Yes.
She would have no part of that.
So,
and she enjoyed the tour.
Yes.
In the video, she's just happy, just riding around behind a horse, and it was loud. But anyway, it was fun. So we went and we did the New Orleans thing, and we went around. We didn't get a chance to go to the above ground cemeteries because we weren't allowed with our dog. And the city was the one that was providing the tours for that, and you had to do it in advance. And there were some things that we couldn't do that we wanted to do because we just weren't allowed.
Yeah, and it was like, if you had a 2019 or 2020 New Orleans tour guide pamphlet or publication, it made it seem like your dog and your child, because I'm going to lump them both in, could go on anything in New Orleans. But then the 2021 tour guide official publication makes it very clear kids and dogs or any pet are not allowed in a lot of locations now.
Yeah.
And that's due to whatever's happened in the past 18 months, plus basically a lot of businesses and buildings falling into decline and neglect.
Pretty much.
One of the Voodoo stores I really wanted to go into, they actually had to move locations across the city. So we didn't get to visit that one.
Right.
Which bummed me
So
out.
we kind of wrapped up our carriage ride, went and got the French beignet, and then we stopped by Marie Laveau's House of Voodoo.
Yeah.
And we go, and you're not allowed to take pictures in there, and you can't do video. So we didn't. But we were sitting there, and, you had Pepper, and we were like, what are we going to do? And then it was just like, well, let's just go ask.
Yeah.
And, the guy looked at you and Pepper and me and was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But somebody else tried to come in with a dog. And he's like, absolutely not. It was just weird, right? It's like, yeah, come on in. So, we did our thing. We were going to have our fortune told.
Yes.
But due to, a situation beyond everyone's control, they weren't doing
group readings. Yes. Or couples readings.
Yeah. So we were like, well, I don't want to spend $80 to hear whatever it is you have to say.
Because the group, the people before me, before I asked, was obviously a guy and a girl who were friends and not romantically involved. And they wanted to know if them and their friend could all get a group reading. And they were like, no, we don't do that, blah, blah. I'm like, well, what about a couples reading? And they're like, we don't do that due to...
Yeah, we're not doing that due to whatever.
Yeah, social distancing.
So they're like, do you guys want to go in? We're like, nope. And so we went and bought T-shirts.
Yes, and all sorts of stuff.
Which was kind of cool because the T-shirts that that you wanted, they didn't have out there, but the guy dug it up for you. The guy was really cool.
Yeah.
We did our thing, and I just felt like we got treated very nicely.
And Marie Laveau's shop, it was really cool because even it has a doorman or door lady, I should say. So she was like, basically, it was almost like going into a club.
Well, it's like security.
Yeah, security. Very mindful. Sure. Kept sneaking looks at Pepper because Pepper's adorable. But there's a little shrine when you first walk in, and you should make an offering to it, which Greg made an offering on behalf of all three of us, and that was really cool. There's other little things there that if you know, you know.
Well, yeah. And well, there was 2 altars. One's for prosperity, and the other one's for just overall.
Yeah. You know. Technically, there was another one towards the back near the T-shirts.
Yeah. That's the one I'm talking about.
Well, there's one that you shouldn't really interact with unless you have a certain intention. We're going to leave that to you should you choose to visit this location. And then there's just stuff you need to be mindful of in there. If you are a follower or practitioner of voodoo, this place is authentic. That's my opinion of this place.
Yeah, to a certain degree, yeah.
Yeah, and yes, there is some kitsch stuff and some very cute stuff there, but there's also a lot of very useful tools there.
Yeah, there's a local section.
Yeah.
In the back.
That was kind of cool.
If you're just a tourist, you're going to ignore.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, I mean, yeah.
And we did stock up. We do have a couple of special gifts that we plan on, using soon. So, and I got fox tooth, and I got these little protection charms.
Yes.
I got some other stuff there too. Yeah.
Very nice. I was excited about the calendar.
Oh, we got
I got a sweet desk calendar, kind of like when you go to the auto parts store or whatever, and it's like this little. I don't know. I got a couple. Yeah, they were really cool.
Spend enough money here. Have a calendar.
Yeah, the guy hooked us up. He was like, here, I'm gonna give you a couple of these, and here's a nice little bag and all that stuff. And I'm thinking, man, doesn't everybody spend a couple $100 in a voodoo shop? I guess not.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know. It seemed like if you were there and you were being polite and not being
I got protection soap for a friend of ours.
A grumpy,
that was really
tourist
cool.
or whatever. I don't know. It was good. It was good for us. We had a good time.
Did you feel anything spooky towards the back?
No, I did not. You know why?
Why?
Because when I take the medicine, I don't feel stuff.
So if you walk towards the back of the Marie Laveau's voodoo.
I did get a weird twinge, though. Oh, well, hold on. I take that back. I sweated like crazy for no reason.
Okay.
So
really? Yeah. When did that start, though?
When I was standing back there waiting to see if we could go get a reading.
Oh, yeah.
In the back of the shop.
Well, that's because you were over towards the right. So if you're walking directly in to the House of Voodoo, you're going to walk in, go towards the back. There's obviously another little station or little kiosk to the left-hand side, but towards the right, there's a wall of, local stuff.
Yeah, that's where I started sweating.
The more you get towards the corner, and I'm talking the corner away from the back of the shop, the stronger you feel something. Now, I don't know if there's something there. I did look really hard because I was trying to figure out what was kind of making Pepper claw my back because I was carrying her and making Greg sweat.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say what I think was over there. If you go out there yourself to the House of Voodoo, take a look at that corner. There's some interesting stuff right in that little area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I felt a lot because remember, I gave you all the stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I got to go. I'm going to go stand over here.
He's like, I know you have Pepper on your shoulders, but I need you to carry everything.
I was like, here, I got to go over here. So when I went over by the T-shirts, it was different. I felt a lot better, which is funny because when I was standing there by the T-shirts, the guy that was running the cash register kind of looked at me. Because I just got all sweat. I was like, I'm not going over there, man. He was like, oh, okay. And then when you came over, and then that's when he helped us. So,
yeah.
I don't know. It was weird. It was a weird trip for me in a lot of ways, but, when it got to the end of our trip, I started realizing what was going on with me and Joe a little bit. Yeah, I got a little sweaty. I don't know. It wasn't from the beignets or anything, because I was like, man, am I having some kind of diabetic episode or something? But it wasn't like that.
And see, that was a thing. Okay, I'm complaining because this trip was both paranormal and about food. And yes, we got to experience a lot of food, but when it came to the beignets and the other stuff, or at least the beignets, we did not overindulge.
No.
I bought a pack of beignets.
A pack? Oh, 6.
Yeah.
We still have one. It's all petrified.
Actually, no. It may have got chucked out the window at something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But
So it wasn't, I don't think it was the humidity. I don't think it was sugar overload for you.
No, it wasn't.
So, but there's...
Because I felt it again later on. We have another episode that we're going to talk about in great and agonizing detail towards the end of our trip where we had a really good experience and a weird experience.
I do have a photo of...
Which had a couple, but, you know.
I do have a photo of the front of the House of Voodoo, so maybe we can share that.
If you want to, yeah. I actually have video where I have the front of it as well.
Yeah.
It's in the New Orleans video that we're going to put up.
Oh, cool.
Which is just basically the carriage ride and some other things. But anyway, so there you go. So that was pretty good. That's kind of what we did. So what we're going to do now is going to take a second to wrap up what we did previously. In between our last episode and this episode, we actually went and did an event.
Yes, we did. So we attended a Wild and Weird West Virginia Con UFO Cryptid and Paranormal Conference. Now, this was outside Chapmanville, West Virginia, and it was thrown by the good guys at Wild and Weird West Virginia. We were really excited. This event got delayed, and we were so happy for it to finally happen because we got to finally meet Joe and Ron, which was super cool, and we got to see some old friends and basically hang out and do this event. Lisa from Cryptid Comforts, she was there, so it was so nice. She hooked us up with a new...
We got an updated Flatwoods Monster.
Yes, the new Flatwoods Monster, which is super cool because it's got the little logo, and she's been redesigned, making her even more cuddly. Pepper didn't even give me a second before my new Flatwoods Monster was officially hers.
Yeah.
Everybody loved Pepper. Literally, Erie Eric and Liz Pavlovic, they were just in love with Pepper, and so was Seth. We got to see Seth Lamille from Wild Sage Felt and the Moth Boys. He hooked one of them up with some coffee, so that was cool. And then got to see...
Yeah, and some stickers and stuff. So
got to see...
We chatted for about 10 seconds about multiple things. But the cool... See, here's what it wound up being. We wound up talking to everybody we know.
Yeah.
And having conversations. Well, I had some conversations with people I don't know.
Yeah.
For a while. It was a cool thing because we recognized people from Instagram and places like that, plus some of the other people that we have met and known. We've done like 40 or 50 events just in the past couple of years, including with the COVID thing. So it was good to catch up with like Seth Breedlove and and
got yet another photo of Seth with Pepper.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
And who else was there? And talked to Hellbent Jessie for a minute.
Yeah.
Which is funny because we did an event before and she came over and I started talking to her a little bit. I did not remember what event we had been at where she was there and we were talking about stuff.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that was like right after I broke my neck and we did that event like 6 months later or something like that. I don't know if it was that one or I don't know. It was just kind of a weird thing because what I realized is that some of these people we haven't seen in like 2 years.
I know. That's what.
And so Steph's like, dude, I haven't seen you in 2 years. I'm like, what? What are you talking about, man? And so, yeah, it's like a whole year just sort of disappeared.
Yeah.
I think that's probably that way for a lot of people. Either they remember every single agonizing day of it, or it's just kind of turned
like
into
me. So.
Well, I don't remember a lot.
Well, I'm not saying you're lucky, because you weren't, because you broke your neck.
Yeah, ooh, you're lucky. You get to be nearly paralyzed and forget a whole year, right? I don't know if I want it. But yeah, it was good. Also, we learned something very important about our trip and our capabilities in our multiple investigation platform. That's what we're calling the albino rhino. It is taller than 8'6", because they had these 4x4 wood, hanging like bar things hanging off some chain up the front where you go check in. Yeah, I blasted that thing too, loud as hell. And there's like a couple of them.
Beautiful Chief Logan State Park Lodge and Resort. Yeah. Yes, which I do recommend. Very nice place. Little haunted too. Yeah, it is haunted. Yes. Haunted by Patricia, because that's the thing. I started sweating again when we were at Chief Logan. And Pepper was having conversations with the walls. That was interesting. So yeah, if you go to the what's it called again? Chief Logan? Chief Logan State Park Lodge. And Lodge. Yes.
Yeah, find some people that work there, been there for a minute. Like if you go and you eat some buffet, they have a nice little restaurant action going on there. Ask them about Patricia.
Yeah, the restaurant staff, very, very familiar with the history.
Yeah, we asked them, hey, what's going on here? And they're like, oh, yeah, let me tell you about Patricia.
Yeah.
So it was a little haunted. I don't know if anybody that was there attending the event, as vendors or presenters, I don't know if they're aware of it or not, but we were aware of it. It's like, this is weird. This place has got a little something going on. But so it was good. We got a chance to catch up with some friends, make some new friends, plan some events and stuff, and which is going to lead us right into CryptidCon, which is coming up pretty soon.
Yeah. Oh, we got a cool painting from Erie Eric, too. I forgot to say that.
Oh, yeah.
He's the guy who puts cryptids in some very classic art pieces.
Nice.
So I put an Instagram link to his stuff because I'm like, I love this stuff.
Yeah. So we have links to most everybody in our show notes. So if you go to CreepGeeks.com, you can find everything we talk about in great and agonizing detail in our podcast. There's also a contact link there if you'd like to contact us. We have a toll-free number you can try and give us a call. I will be honest, it works mostly. Sometimes it just doesn't. I don't know what the deal is, but it's a toll-free number, and that number is 1-575-208-4025. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's lots of good stuff going on.
That's pretty much it. I do want to thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to find us on social media. We are all over the place. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, even Twitter. Just search CreepGeeks Podcast. You will find us. Thank you again to our Patreon supporters. If you want to support us on Patreon, that's going to be patreon.com/CreepGeeks. So, yeah.
So anyway, there you go. So if you decide to tune in for our next podcast episode, which we would really like very much, and you can do that. It's going to be a continuation of our trip that we took across the great U.S., and it's going to be, if I can find it, so I didn't want to forget. Right.
Yeah.
That's been the good thing about going through some of these videos and stuff, is reliving some of the good stuff. It's like, oh, yeah, this is great. Okay, so our next podcast will be Monster Mart and Alien Cemetery, because we went to an alien cemetery grave in Aurora, Texas, and also stopped by Monster Mart to get some hot sauce. Again, food related. So, yeah, we didn't see Lyle Blackburn, though. No. Maybe next time.
Or the Beast of Boggy Creek.
Yeah.
Didn't see him either.
Nope. Okay, so anyway, there you go. So, see you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.